Warning, the following review contains footage of a video game which may potentially trigger seizures in those with photosensitive epilepsy. Viewer discretion is advised. Listener discretion is not. Enjoy the review. In what could now be dubbed the former generation of gaming, retro revivals sprung up and in a great number no less, carving out a larger spot in the gaming market than ever before, thanks in no small part to the rise of the independent developer. These throwback titles have been flourishing in the years since, and for that matter, 2014 is sure to be full of callbacks to the classics of old. Yoshi's returning on a new island, Strider will be brought back by the hacks who made the Green Lantern and Battleship video game, heck, Shenmue is getting not one, but 2 sequels this year. And yet, in the midst of all those classic-style titles and revivals of classic franchises, TxK proves to be the strangest revival of them all. A retro arcade shooter on the PlayStation Vita, TxK is the spiritual successor to the relatively unknown Tempest 2000. Some of you may be familiar with the obscure Atari Jaguar title thanks to the Angry Video Game Nerd, but most of you probably don't know about the history behind that game, or that Tempest 2000 also came on the original PlayStation, PC, and Sega Saturn.
Got it. Oh, yes! Yeah! Getting a lot of work done, I see.
It's Tempest 2000 from Atari. I just can't stop myself.
You brought your Atari Jaguar to work?
Atari has made the coolest games for years. Now they're bringing that experience to the PC market.
You better can it. Here comes Mr. Weevil.
Sir, I can explain.
You better not tell me you already beat my high score.
Tempest 2000 for the PC and CD-ROM.
Then again, that's what happened when people's only exposure to this obscure Atari title is brought to you by a man whose obsession with playing horrible video games had driven to the point of insanity, where he hallucinates a floating green head who asks him about his choice of Flight Academy. Designed by Jeff Minter, Tempest 2000 was actually a remake of the arcade classic, Tempest, made by legendary game designer Dave Thurrow in 1981. At the time, Tempest was considered revolutionary, a groundbreaking title for being one of the first games to feature a difficulty setting. Likewise, Tempest 2000 became well known as the only worthwhile thing to come out of the Atari Jaguar, aside from Atari's laughable marketing campaign.
Some of you believe your system is the most advanced in the universe. Let's review the numbers. Sega Genesis is 16 bits, 3DO is 32 bits, the Atari Jaguar is 64 bits. Which is more advanced? Clifford! 16 and 32 are less than 64. So with 64 bits, 3D graphics, real-world animation, and lightning speed that you can only get with Jaguar, which is more advanced? Clifford!
Can you repeat the question?
Jaguar! Jaguar! Jaguar!
Oh, Atari, you filed for bankruptcy last year. Good times. Tempest 2000 would later receive a sequel called Tempest 3000, only for the Tempest series to vanish into the realms of obscurity. That is until 2014 with the release of Llamasoft's TxK for the PlayStation Vita. Is this retro throwback as timeless as the arcades of the 80s, or does TxK suck more than those monstrous money-guzzling machines? Insert your quarters, press start, and let's find out. TxK's design requires very little explanation. It's a retro arcade shooter. You choose from 3 different modes, hop in your crescent moon-shaped spaceship, and shoot down any enemies on screen before they shoot you. As you blast down these invaders, you'll collect power-ups like a jump that lets you, well, jump, a particle beam which gives you a more powerful shot, an AI droid that helps you mow down your adversaries, and a maximum shot that lets you fire at your enemies endlessly. If you're in a tight spot, you can unleash a smart bomb which destroys every enemy on screen and gives you double the points for blowing them up. You can even use it to save yourself from getting dragged down to your death. You only get 1 per level, so make sure you be careful before you use it. Once you clear a stage, you're taken to a bonus run to earn points, and then it's back to shooting. It is absolutely classic as the arcades the series started from. There's a great amount of variety of enemies introduced to the ranks the higher you go, and the stages provide even more diversity to the mix, always adding something fresh from level to level, with stages that can move, rotate around, and so forth. With all these invaders thrown in your sights and 100 stages to go through, it's surprising how well armed you are for every situation. You can even stand still and shoot in spot if enemies reach the end. It's the perfect kind of difficulty. TxK is challenging to be sure, but never brutally punishing or unfair. On the contrary, the game is quite fair in spite of its quota-consuming heritage. For example, before you can shoot down your enemies, they'll appear on screen as tiny colored dots, with different colors to differentiate each and every enemy. It's a great way of letting you know what foes are coming up and which ones to shoot down first. That said, this game is not a walk in the park. It's a test of reflexes and skill. The only way to get better is to keep trying, and trying, and trying. And you will keep trying, because TxK is so hard to put down once you pick it up. you can easily lose track of all the time you'll spend getting to the next level, or beat your best score, or your friend's high score, or the online leaderboard, or just have a good time killing time. I only have one complaint. Technically two, but they both revolve around the same thing. The camera. The camera can be moved around via the Vita's gyroscope in places that they shouldn't be able to. They're used for the sections between stages, which, frankly, would have worked fine with just the regular control setup. The rest of the time, it moves the camera around and can make it difficult to see what you're shooting. If they had limited this to the bonus areas, that would be fine, but there's no way to change them in the options menu, and that can get a little annoying. Also, this is just a minor nitpick, but while I appreciate that you don't lose your powers when you die, it took me a while to figure out that you lose them every time you move on to a new level. These are all, in the grand scheme of things, molehills of what little the game is fired on, underneath a mountain of praise for everything else it gets right. TxK is a phenomenal little title that perfectly encapsulates the feeling of playing an arcade title from the early 80s, an ecstatic Vita game whose name stands at the very top of the system's scoreboards. Let us conclude this new look back to the past with a presentation. The art style is clearly reminiscent of the vector aesthetics of the early arcade games, of which Tempest was a part of, but with the power of a modern day console to fully realize how stimulating something so simple can be. The enemies may not be the most elaborately designed, but they're certainly interesting to look at among the rest of the spectacle. All the colors and explosions contrast incredibly well against the trippy space-like backgrounds. Running at an impressive 60 frames per second on a handheld, TxK is a marvel to behold on the Vita's gorgeous screen. As for the sound design, it's exhilarating. The sound effects add to the retro charm and blend in so naturally with the soundtrack. But how is the soundtrack? Well, let's take a listen for a moment, shall we? I guess it's alright. Actually, it's pretty dang solid. I'm usually not a fan of electronic music, but there's so much energy in them, so much to like about the rhythm and the beat, the melody, that it becomes impossible not to enjoy listening to the fantastic tunes here. It really does pump you up, and adds to the game's arcade-like feel. There were times when the music dropped out for no apparent reason in later levels, but when it's on, it's pure auditory bliss. Combined with the stimulating visuals, it puts you in a state of nirvana. TxK looks fantastic, sounds incredible, and plays amazingly well. In short, it's the first must-own game for 2014. If you don't own a Vita, don't worry. It's a timed exclusive, which means it should be coming to other platforms in the future. Regardless of whatever system it does come out on though, you owe it to yourself to play this fantastic blast from the past. TxK earns a 9.5 out of 10. That's all for now, folks. Until next time, game on, my friends.